You ready for my bid?
Oh, I'm so ready. Chris, I'm always ready for.
All right.
For
So you're recording then.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Nick, every story comes to an end.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always thought that this week's movie would be the end. It'd be the final That's That Mattress Man.
Oh yeah, that would have been good.
That would have been so good.
You should have said that.
Too
You
late.
should have said that before we watched.
It's so late.
Yeah.
How good would it be? You're wearing you're wearing your Barry costume.
Yeah, just so anyone listening, if you remember from a few weeks ago, I said I was doing a bit where I'm going to wear a suit every week and it's going to get dirty and dirtier. I have been wearing that suit every week, and it looks like Adam Sandler's in Punch Drunk Love. That was a good bit. I think this is good. I think this episode's going to have 2 intro bits, okay?
Okay.
I want to show you something. If you've seen this already, let me know.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. This is an A24 trailer. Oh, that 90s show. I haven't seen this yet.
Hey, Grandma. Hey, Grandpa. Okay, kids, the basement is all yours.
From my understanding,
Shirts on and no dancing. No dancing.
it's Eric and Donna's kids are staying with
No dancing, you guys.
Red and Kitty.
My room. My foot goes in their ass.
You sweet man. I think we should just say, whoa.
Get out.
See you soon.
Get out.
Don't be a stranger.
Get out.
Extra ice here.
That was mine.
We never locked the sliding door.
We do now.
Okay. How you vibing with that?
Chris, I think it looks like dog shit. How do you feel about it, first of all?
I feel like I almost feel like the way that you feel about the iCarly show, where I'm like, I might watch an episode.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't know why. That was, maybe I guess I know why. It was my comfort show after school, but I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
for sure. I get that. I feel like this
I feel like here's my thing. I think there's gonna be one really good episode that sends off the show.
okay.
I feel like there's a chance they nail like the emotional thing where like Eric and Donna will come to pick him up or something,
Okay.
and it's like their final goodbye to the show. I
Oh.
can see them nailing that.
I heard Topher Grace say somewhere that he's in episode 1, but none of the rest of it. He doesn't want people to get excited. He's not coming back. He's just in the first episode.
Well, it sounds like burying it a little bit.
Maybe.
So it's super hype. I don't know.
I feel, by just the looks of this trailer, I feel like the show might be an important, like, cultural touchstone that I think we might all, for once, as a nation, maybe even a planet,
Yeah.
agree we are
Done
done
touching.
with the sequel reboot stuff. That's enough of that.
Yeah.
Like the Fuller House,
Yeah.
everybody's there and they all have kids and it's an even fuller house. Yeah, I kind of got that. It's Red and Kitty
Yeah.
and then a bunch of kids I don't really care about. And those
Yeah,
title
that's the thing
cards,
is if
I'm
you're
just-
gonna bring in new characters, you really gotta bring the heat. Yeah, I don't know. I really do feel like that 70s show worked a lot off of nostalgia and like sentimentality. I feel like it was funny and stuff like that.
yeah,
But then there'd be like an episode where like Don and Eric break up, and Eric gets visited by like a ghost of the past and the future, and reminds him why he likes Donna or whatever, and then ends with a nice emotional scene where he shows up and he's like, Donna, I don't want to be broken up anymore, and it's all sweet and you cry a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
or like the episode where he goes off to go teach in Africa or whatever, and it's all sad because him and Kelso are getting the shot in the butt.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what really drove the show. So I feel like it is ripe for like, you do show now because show makes sense, obviously. But I feel like I would buy into like whatever silly way they have to do it. Like everybody's back in town for a day in like the 90s, and you make like a quick movie where everybody's back, and you just get like a nice little shot of that like nostalgia of like
Yeah.
where are they at, what are they doing.
I think if it comes for a sequel reboot for a TV show,
Yeah.
I think a movie's the way to go.
Yeah. It's not going to be the best movie ever made, but that's not the point of it. It's just to be like, hey, especially with that 70s show, because the whole point is like, okay, it's 20 years later now.
Yeah, exactly.
The 90s is a
Which
different decade. It's a different decade.
blew my mind though. I saw someone point out online that I'm sure you know the last episode of that 70s show ends New Year's Eve in 1979, and when they get to 1 and it's the 80s, the show's over. Beautiful, great idea. But the time between that episode airing and now is in real time. like where that 90s show is. Like that's how much time has passed apparently.
Yeah, it'd be perfect. It's almost like Twin Peaks: The Return 25 years later.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where, like, I feel like the usual trajectory of a show, and I'm talking in super general terms, is you kind of have like a strongish pilot. That's why you get picked up. But the first season's usually like figuring it out, and then you hit your stride, and you kind of hit your stride for a while because you're actually like in the midst of churning out an episode every week, and you're actually doing the work. I feel like when you come back for one revival, you might have a really good idea of how to start it, but you're kind of back in that season 1 position where it's like, okay, well, what works now? And you're trying to work it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it takes, it's not like you're off to the races.
It feels like, it feels a little doomed from the start to me because
Revival series in general, yeah.
it's going to get picked up because people love the old show. So people are going to watch it.
But you've been out of work for as long as the show's been off. With that, like, you don't really know how that works. Is what I'm saying. Like, yeah.
Or I would, and what I'm saying is, it's got the marketability. People are going to watch it no matter what. So, no one's really got to put a lot into making sure, like, the pilot's really good, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even if it is, like, it's a new TV show, so it's got to, these new kids have to get a season and a half under their belt for it to, like, mesh and stuff like that. But I don't think
anybody's trying to get it totally renewed.
Yeah, I don't think anybody watching it is going to go, well, these kids aren't good, but I'll give them a season and a half. They're going to go, this isn't as good as the old show that I remember, so I'm not going to watch this anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of, doomed from the start because the expectation has been set by, like, its history, right? Like, they're expecting that. And then also, the other thing that I thought about what you're talking was, like, I would wager at least the people who are in front of the camera, I can't speak for the people behind the camera, but, like, they're out of that. They don't really want to get back into 9 seasons of...
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like probably a lot of people, and I'm sure there are even people like some of the showrunners and stuff like that that are like, yeah, let's do a cheap pop real quick. That's fun. I miss this. But I don't think anyone's eager to jump back into the day in, day out, year after year of shooting.
Yeah, exactly.
A third of the year and yada, yada, yada.
I mean, and there's a good chance that the behind-the-scenes folks on 90 show aren't the same
people.
Yeah.
But I just meant like showrunners, like whoever's like actually owns it or has like their... I mean, like there's somebody back there who's got like their hand on like, I was there when it was...
Absolutely.
I
think it should... Here's my pitch.
Okay.
For that 90s revival that is already happening, so me saying this doesn't matter. You do the movie. You do a cool 90 minutes. It is mainly the old cast as adults now. And their kids are there. And you get the kids every now and then. And they're going, they've got B plots, they've got C plots.
Yeah, I don't want to totally derail you, but I'm thinking like they go out, leave the kids with Red and Foreman, so you have an A and B plot now. Like, what is everybody out doing? And then Red and Kitty back home with the kids. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And like, they probably, because the adults find themselves in their old ways and their old hijinks again, and they're up on the water tower and shit, and they're getting high in someone's basement. Meanwhile, their kids are getting up on the water tower and they're getting high in someone's basement, and they kind of like
passing like ships in the night.
And they pass like ships in the night until they crash like ships in the night.
Yeah.
And they go, well, I thought you were, but Dad, you're a square. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
And if, we watch it and we like the kids enough, give the kids a TV show. But just make a very expensive pilot that everybody's going to watch.
Why are we wearing the suits?
I don't know, Chris. I'm trying. No one's
As
paying
a man
me.
in a suit, I don't know.
No one's paying me to be in a suit. I just am. You say that Hyde died 30 minutes after the finale.
Eating Soup Alone is a podcast hosted by me, Christopher Crumley, and co-hosted by Nicholas Johnson. We try our best to ramble incoherently about a handful of movies at least once a week.
So this week we watched Airplane and we watched Punch Drunk Love. I assume we're going to start with Airplane.
Sure, we can. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, I got good news and I got bad news.
What's the good news?
Bad news, we got no mail this week.
Okay.
Good news, that's a lie. I got it right here.
All right, Airplane. And this one's coming to us, usually it's like typed, it's very nice. This one's just scribbled in red marker. It's kind of giving me like Joker era, maybe like Paul Dano Riddler kind of vibes. It seems like
Okay.
I'm gonna open this up and there's gonna be some kind of riddle where if I don't solve it right, my mom's head blows up or something.
Ooh.
Yeah. Airplane 1980. This 70s classic ha-ha movie, released in the 80s. Airplane is a little rough. That's a lie. It's pretty rough. Also, it was directed by 3 people. Isn't that strange? If you have fond memories of this movie, maybe just let it live there. Don't rewatch it. Sorry. 4 out of 10. Before we talk about our history, I will say we have a pilot friend, and she says that pilots reference this movie all the time.
She says.
That's so...
I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking about someone else. Who else do we know that's a pilot?
Who do you know that's pilot?
Jeff.
Yeah, Sarah Bay.
Sarah Bay's a fucking
Yeah.
pilot. Like for like that's her job. That's what she
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, she went to college for it. She used to be a teacher for like 3 or 4 years, and now she delivers like organs. Right now she's flying around the country like every day. She goes to like New York, picks up a heart, brings it to fucking Oregon or whatever, and then comes home.
How did I not know this?
You didn't know this?
Well, I don't know her at all. Actually, that's probably why. But
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I want to be friends with Sarah Bay now because she's a full-time pilot, not
Yeah.
like that piece of shit Jeff.
Weekend pilot. So anyways.
Chris, what's your history with the movie Airplane! Exclamation point.
I saw it a lot like early teen, like 10 to 12.
Yeah.
I feel like it was kind of big in my household. But also at the time, so was Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll touch on that a little bit later. But yeah, it was always quotable. Like even to this day, you know, my family will still say things like, just want to let you know, good luck. We're all counting on you. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What about you? I think you have a very sweet story with your dad, don't you?
I do. I'm glad that you remembered
Yeah.
it. My 8th, 9th birthday, something like that. My parents rented out the pool at my school because I was stoked about it because kids all the time would do that. I'd be like, oh, we got to do this. And my parents would be like, I don't know.
What do you think it cost him?
That's a great question. Should I call my mom right now and ask her?
Sure. It's gonna backfire. You know she's gonna answer, and she was like, "Oh God, these in the driveway, and oh God."
She's not going to know, and then she's going to keep me on the phone for another 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe I should call my dad. No, he won't know either. I'm not going to call either of them. We'll say $100,000 it cost my parents to rent this pool out for an afternoon. And I was so stoked about it. And then the night before, you know, you're a kid, you just can't sleep. But this happens before I was supposed to be asleep. We went to Woolly Bullies, a restaurant that no longer exists. Me and my sister both got hamburgers because they were known for their burgers, I think, or I was just 8, so all I would eat would be hamburgers and french fries. And me and my sister got food poisoning. And I threw up for about a day and a half, just straight. Meaning, I didn't miss my own birthday party, Chris. My parents went to the pool and hosted a birthday party for a bunch of other people's kids while I wasn't there. And they cut a cake and sang happy birthday and opened presents without me.
Wow.
They filmed the whole thing, so they
Spectacular.
showed it to me. They got home and tried to show it to me, and I'm like, I'm still vomiting. I can't look at this.
Yeah.
My friend's dad.
So they just gave you all your open gifts?
Actually, yeah. And my friend's dad made me a Green Day cake with a heart grenade on it and stuff like that. It's great. But anyway, before that, while I was puking my little brains out all night, like I was up for 24 hours because I couldn't sleep because every like 30 minutes I would throw up everything inside of me.
Yeah.
My sister got off easy. She threw up for a couple hours, then went to bed and was fine the next day.
She got it all out.
It really got me. But all night, no, my dad, I'm sure my dad's train of thought was, the old ball and chain is asleep and I'm just awake with my son. I'm going to show him a bunch of movies I think everybody should see, but also probably that his mom wouldn't want him seeing. So the first one we watched was Airplane, and it's a very, very nice memory for me.
Yeah.
I think we watched Pleasantville, the Tobey Maguire movie where he goes into a TV show, just because it was on. And then I think we watched Weird Science, which is another movie that does not hold up well at all. And then I think we watched The Breakfast Club as well. And I think the one that got me the most is Breakfast Club, but the one that like I think of more often is Airplane, because I'm 8 years old seeing all this shit that's in Airplane being like, God, Dad is so cool. He's let me watch Airplane right now. That being said, I think you and I had the same reaction watching this the other day.
Yeah.
Airplane does not age too well at all.
No, it ages very poorly. I think Airplane has some strengths, and it has a lot of shit that just bogs it down. bugs.
I lied.
about.
We did not watch Breakfast Club. We watched Blazing Saddles. Sorry, go on.
Oh, okay. But yeah, a lot of things. I think just the sense of humor a lot of the times ends up hurting Airplane
Yeah,
more than it helps.
There are some jokes that I still to this day think are
Very funny.
top tier, like
Yeah.
them always cutting back to the guy that he left in the cab
Yeah.
throughout the movie,
Yeah.
or anybody killing themselves after he tells them his long ass story. I think that's very funny. But like between you and I was checked out for most of this movie. I was trying to make a TikTok for our TikTok,
Yeah.
and that had most of my attention.
Yeah.
And if I'm not wrong, you fell asleep during this.
No, for like 5 minutes. But yeah, almost off the rip, I was like, okay, this has a lot more in common with Family Guy than it does, in my opinion, with like a lot of its like comedic contemporaries.
Yeah, like I always, like I'm afraid to watch Caddyshack. I've never seen it.
I'd like to watch that.
But I always assume that those movies are going to hold up like a Mel Brooks movie, and they don't. Like, especially watching Airplane, this movie does not. It
Yeah.
is not a Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah.
Or like The Naked Gun or something like that. I'm terrified to watch those
Yeah.
because there's going to be some funny stuff in there, but also there's going to be an old white lady translating jive, you know? Oh, God.
Yeah, that's rugged. The movie was released by Paramount Pictures, and it was a critical and commercial success. It made almost $200 million on a budget of $3.5. Its creators received the Writers Guild of America Award for Best Adapted Comedy and nominations for Golden Globe Awards for Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and the BAFTA Award for Best Screenplay. Apparently, it was also in 2010, nonetheless, which I guess makes sense. That would be peak Family Guy time. It was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And in my opinion, that is not good. Also, in the midst of doing some research, I didn't notice an NBC News article that I have not read, but it mentions that the hit comedy Airplane is 40 years old. This was 2020, but it's still relevant. And I can just read in the little blurb that it still shows its age, but it's not easy to put it on a no-fly list of offensive movies, and it would be an escape to put it on there. Or sorry, it would be easy to put it on a no-fly list of offensive movies, but that would be a mistake. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can see the point. Like, it's not like Birth of a Nation or something like that, but also it's one of those things where it's like the little bit of fun I had with it is also just like not really worth the rest of the ground stuff. But yeah, so yeah, like for example, like another joke is like you mentioned the jive thing, which is just like, oh, black people talk funny, don't they?
Yeah, like that's
Yeah, like
that's
like most of the humor is like how is someone who's not white different from like a
yeah,
white
no,
dude?
exactly. Like the old lady hangs herself, and then the Asian guy stabs himself with a sword. Like that's
Yeah, again, Family Guy is just cheap. Like, oh, it's an Asian character, so it's gotta kill itself the way that samurais used to back in the day.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
or like the Airplane, it's Israel Air, so it has to have the stuff that makes it different from American culture on it to like, distinguish it. Like,
it's a great point that you keep making. Is this Airplane is just an episode of Family Guy, basically.
yeah. Like that Airplane bit with the Israel thing is like, I see that animated.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the Family Guy style.
The only thing I'll give this movie credit for is when that old white lady comes over and starts translating for the two black guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was like I was glued to the screen, edge of my seat. I was like, are they gonna make this old white lady say the N-word?
Yeah.
And they didn't, and I was pretty taken aback. I was like, good on you, Airplane. And then the rest of the movie happened.
And then sometimes they have lighthearted jokes like the drinking problem, but instead of it being him and alcoholic, he just splashes it on his face. That's funny. And I also don't mean to say that like I'm some priss who can't handle an off-color joke, but like the off-color joke kind of has to have like something more to it other than, oh, this is different than how white people do.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, it's got to be a little bit smarter than all of the humor in this movie, because I think parts of this movie are funny, but I don't think they're really well crafted jokes. They're just they're just quick Family Guy jokes that are like, hey, we're just gonna try to make you laugh real quick, and then immediately again, and then immediately again, and then immediately again. And none of it ever. There's no super highs, but there's some pretty low lows.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, like just so like the thing is that Airplane is super influential, but again, like it seems mainly on Family Guy. Like, there's the bit where they do the flashback to parody like Saturday Night Fever or whatever, and they're in the bar with all the rough types, and couple of Girl Scouts are fighting like Peter and the Chicken for a
Yeah.
long time. And I'm not saying that like, oh, it reminds me of a Peter and the Chicken skit. I literally could see a cutaway where for like the joke in the Family Guy episode is that it's two Girl Scouts that are fighting.
Yeah.
So rough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I don't. We should have watched Blazing Saddles with this or another Mel Brooks. Like I immediately cut to Blazing Saddles because I'm like, that movie's racist, but it's racist on purpose, and that's part of the joke is that these people are racists,
Yeah.
not haha, black people are different than us. Where most of the we keep saying most of the humor in this is haha, aren't black people funny?
yeah, like I mean that's a good point. I mean, you know, Blazing Saddles is using racism the same way that everybody, I haven't seen it in a long time, I don't know, but everybody looks very seemingly favorable on you know, the blackface joke in Tropic Thunder because the joke is racism.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and that was, you know, even something that I kind of compared the movie to when I was, you know, having conversations with some of my friends was like, there's a movie that, and, you know, even then there is a bit of a problem with, you know, because then that kind of gets into the territory of like the aughts and how like, you know, I'm sure you've heard about this, like, I've heard a lot of people give this opinion, and I can definitely see it that like there was the trend in like comedies and TV series where a lot of white writers thought that if like, oh, we'll have blackface in it, but because like the joke is that blackface is a bad thing to do,
Yeah.
but like them still being like, well, yeah, but you're still like playing in that wheelhouse, and a lot of people comment about how like that can end up biting yourself in the ass. Like you know, famously I can remember Chappelle talking about doing like bits on the you know, the Chappelle show where, you know, he would do that kind of a thing like, oh, this character is a blind, you know, black man who's a part of the KKK because he doesn't know that he's black or whatever. And he's like, and then I would bump into people in the real world who are like, hey, Chappelle, I saw your show, show them hard R N-words, like you really stuck it to him and stuff. And he'd be like, whoa, that's not what I'm trying to do with the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, ultimately though, you know, whether that's you know, okay to play with, everybody's got a different opinion. But yeah, juxtaposing this with something like Blazing Saddles, yeah, the you know, the joke is never ha, I said a racist thing. It's, you know, aren't racist dumb, you know?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think this was something Mel Brooks said, which is I think really good and poignant. Like, and it cuts into that to the Robert Downey Jr. in blackface, or even the Lethal Weapon episode of It's Always Sunny, or Jimmy Fallon doing blackface as Chris Rock. It's like, yeah, the joke being blackface is bad, and that's the joke. It's bad because, yeah, like what you said with the Dave Chappelle thing, it like normalizes it and lets idiot, like the dumbest of racists go, yeah, he's on my side. But it's also when your joke is, haha, racists are dumb. The Mel Brooks quote is about people being like, oh, you could never make a movie like Blazing Saddles anymore. And Mel Brooks is like, yeah, that's true because we already made Blazing Saddles. This joke doesn't, you can't make it today the same way you can't make a movie where you throw a pie in someone's face and that's supposed to be the joke.
Yeah.
We're past it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. But yeah, no, so, you know, I'm not just trying to like whine and complain. I'm just trying to say that like my experience watching the movie was just like, oh wow, that was surprisingly off color. Because again, like, you know, we watch movies all the time from a bygone era, and there are plenty of things that, you know, like I appreciate that, you know, other people, you know, my age, and I have a lot of siblings that are a little bit younger, and, you know, they kind of can't penetrate something because they're like, well, that's a little problematic, you know, and I can look past it. But yeah, I don't really know that I can really appreciate this one for any qualities, you know, too much the way that I can others, just because like there are so many other comedies from that era that like were funnier, more clever. I mean, like, yeah, I guess this like was a really important, maybe even the, you know, to that point and for a long time after, and maybe even today, I don't have box office numbers, this may be like the biggest parody movie of all time. And we talk all the time about how parody can be like the funniest comedy, if not the funniest type of comedy. But, you know, what kind of happened after it, I really don't see much overlap between like it and some of the stronger comedies that have come out lately, like that are parody, like What We Do in the Shadows, or or Walk Hard or something. Yeah, like I said, it mainly seems to have led down the road to things like Family Guy, just like adult animation style humor. So
Yeah.
that's all. That's the only reason why I mean to bring it up is because again, like so many of the things are just kind of like, well, that's more of a demerit than like something I want to look past for the good stuff,
Yeah.
But let's run it down from the top. Right off the rip, you're at an airport. Things are tense. Music is tense. And they're immediately doing the bit with the people talking over the loudspeaker. The red zone is for loading and unloading, and no, the white zone is for loading and unloading, and they go back and forth.
The one piece of trivia I did read about this movie is that the people doing that voiceover are the real people who do it at the actual airport. So that's fun.
That's kind of fun. And we meet Elaine. Elaine is a stewardess. She's in love with, but it's a tumultuous relationship with Pilot Man? What was Pilot Man's name?
His name was Aaron Plane.
Aaron Plane. And Aaron Plane is driving taxi. He starts the movie driving taxi. He thinks he's running there real quick to do a nice little romantic comedy gesture. So he leaves the guy sitting there, and you get another little joke where he leaves the meter running and whatnot. There's a couple other jokes in the little airport. Like the pilot going to a phone and the person on the loudspeaker saying, no, the other phone, all that kind of stuff. And it sets up like an old school kind of like vaudeville, like, the Mayo Clinic's on line 1 or whatever. And, now, there's a call on line 5 or something like that. And he's like, all right, hold the Mayo, give me or on number 5 or whatever the fuck, right? The little play on words and stuff. Whatever. We get to our main little thing, the romantic comedy thing where Elaine and Aaron Pilot are talking and, he's like, I just want it to be like it was before. I promise it will be. And she's like, I have to go. And so he buys a ticket. He buys a smoking ticket, which is kind of funny. It's a funny little one. He gets on there. And from here, he continues, trying to talk to her in passing and whatnot. One of the first jokes that I noticed that I liked is the first couple times, I kind of stopped paying attention to it after a little while, but the first couple times he talks about being deployed, he's like, I was deployed in Drambuie, which is a liqueur. And then later on he was like, I was deployed in daiquiri or whatever, which is an alcohol. That's funny. And another joke that I did like is there's a nun reading Boy's Life and a boy reading Nun's Life magazine. Those are funny little gags. But yeah, for every one of those, you also get like 3 other kind of like, Israel Airlines, but it's just an airplane with beard and a yarmulke and sideburns.
Yeah. Sure does.
But also one of my the favorite jokes is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as one of the pilots.
Great,
is very funny. The young boy who recognizes him. I do think about this joke often. It kind of always stays with me. But then you also get the you ever seen a grown man naked, Joey? And yeah, so basically what ends up happening is Leslie Nielsen is a doctor on the plane, and they need the doctor because they served steak and fish tonight, and apparently the fish was bad because everybody who had fish is ill. All right. I'm also going to mention another joke that I did like, which was when the gentleman asked for coffee off the cart. It goes to the interior monologue of his wife, and she's like, Steve never has coffee after dinner at home.
Yeah.
It's a good one. But yeah, so, there are some other gags in there. We get all the exposition, and as you mentioned, everybody's very upset that he's going on, and so they, kill themselves as he's talking and whatnot. I mentioned it a second ago. Leslie Nielsen, I think he's a great comedic actor.
Oh, so good.
He does great in this. But basically, yeah, everybody has food poisoning. The pilots go out, and they activate the automatic pilot. I think it is funny that it's a blow-up doll or whatever. I don't appreciate it a little bit later when, it's like, okay, it's right underneath the buckle, and you got to whip it out, and you got to suck on it. And, I guess the joke is that flight attendants blow pilots or whatever. Again, that doesn't really land for me. And then you have some other, things like in the beginning with the, I'll take Rye on 5 and hold the May or whatever, where the what's your vector, Victor, and Roger, and over, and all that kind of stuff. With the pilots, we, blaze past that a little bit. But yeah, so it basically gets to the point where Aaron Pilot, our main character, who has PTSD from being in the war, just nondescript horrors, has to pilot the aircraft. He has to overcome that fear.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, one of the things that I do like the movie for is the part that's supposed to be more air quotes serious, like the drama of it. One of the things I want to mark out is the soundtrack is always so loud and brass and over the top, and it just keeps this like sense of tension going. But it's in a very funny and outlandish and over the top kind of like tone, and the actual drama of like, you know, them talking in the airport before they even go in the sky about how things will be different later. Like the way they're performing, it's like an over-the-top theatrical style that kind of comes with parody that I feel like some things do well and some things don't do well. And I think they handle it well. It almost reminds me at times of like the way that like Twin Peaks is like a soft parody of soap operas. And I'm genuinely brought in. I tend to like... you know, things like, you know, you could even mention things like Basket Case or like Pink Flamingos, like that thing where like, you know, it's often associated with bad acting, but just that thing where it's a little grand, you know? And I do like that over the top nature, and I'm mainly hooked in that, like the...
camp? Is that the word you're looking for?
Yeah, it's a little campy, but not like, you know, campy can also be like taken... It's also a scale. I would consider these light on the scale of camp, not as far as like something as like Rocky Horror Picture Show or Supernatural show, you know, or something like that. Just dipping your toes in that lighthearted camp area. But yeah, I'm invested in the idea that this plane is going down and everybody's got food poisoning, and the only guy in the plane that can fly it has PTSD and stuff, and eventually he has to pilot it and land it, and yeah, you get a bunch of other, you know, gags with, oh, I picked the wrong week to quit smoking, oh, I picked the wrong week to quit huffing glue, and you know, that's pretty funny or whatever. And then you have that very oddball character running around going, you know, and Leon's getting larger or whatever. But yeah, it's to cite the NBC article a little bit more. It says 40 years later, Airplane feels so wrong for its politically incorrect jokes and raunchy theatrics, but that's exactly what makes it so right. It reminds us of the importance of pushing boundaries at the same time that it gives us a playbook for doing so in a good-natured rather than vicious or belittling way. And yeah, I don't know. I could see it if, again, there was just a little more substance to the jokes. It's just one of those things where, like, I feel like so much of it is just a cheap pop of, like, oh, we said a thing. You know, you know, just to give you an example, like, cheap just in the way of just being, like, there's an Asian character and, like, calling him yellow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, let me give you another example. I don't think this is the greatest thing ever, but at least like something like Clerks 2, which I'm not a fan of, there's the whole bit where Randall keeps using a derogatory, you know, slur. He keeps saying porch monkey, and everybody's like, you can't just say that word. And he's like, what are you talking about? My grandma called me one all the time. And they have to explain to him that, like, that's a racist term. And at first he's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And then he's like, you know what, I'm taking it back. What does that even mean? That kind of a thing. At least there's something to it. Like, the joke is that he doesn't even know, and that his grandma used to say it, and then it makes sense to him because he's like, oh yeah, she was a little racist. Like, they're doing something with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's a great joke, but I'm saying, like, just to give you an example of, like, what I'm talking about, like, the difference between, like, are you doing something with it, or are you just saying, oh, black people talk funny?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying it's necessarily good, like, you know, mean or anything like that, but it's, like, almost inherently mean because it's just pointing.
Oh, it's mean.
It's just pointing and laughing.
It's
you know?
mean. A great point by, let's see, Nathaniel Molar. On his article on incluvie.com.
Okay.
A great point being that there are good jokes in this. There are good, timeless, not race-based jokes.
Yeah.
But those are all reserved specifically for the white characters. Anytime there's a person of color in this movie, the joke is that that person isn't white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Validates my points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's another bit I totally forgot about, and I should mention apparently the trio that wrote and directed it or whatever were Jewish themselves, and so like that's something that continuously gets brought up in these articles about how like it's lighthearted because they make fun of Jews as well as everybody. They go for everybody's throat kind of a thing. But there's the joke about oh, would you like some heavy reading or some light reading? Which is funny when she grabs the pamphlet, but then the joke is, here's a list of Jewish Hall of Fame sports players or something like that. Like, is that like supposed to be Jews are bad at sports? Is that what that is? Or is it?
And I think now that I know that these three guys are Jewish, whatever, you can make that joke, that's fine. But
that one specifically, but it is just one of those things where, like, again, I'm going more so for the point I was trying to make is, again, it's just another like Family Guy thing.
Exactly.
It's like and then there's also when Aaron Pilot is in the Peace Corps. he teaches the remote tribe how to play basketball, and he says they take it to it pretty quickly.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that? Yeah, he sets up like a bamboo and whatnot, like basketball hoop, and teaches them all how to lay up and stuff. And
See how big my eyes are getting, Chris? Oof.
I even delved into Reddit to do a little bit of research. Yeah, it seems like one of the top comments is those jokes weren't racist. You're just looking for something to offend you. And the next one is they're not racist unless you see them as racist, which is more reflective of you than it is of this movie. I kind of hate that argument because it's one of those things where it's like if you make a joke about how naturally good black people are at basketball, and I notice that, it's not because I'm a racist, it's because you made a racist joke.
Yeah, those comments
It's
are
not-
made by racists.
Yeah. Yeah, and the third one is all about how, like, oh, people love to rap this is a movie that couldn't be made the day title on anything, and it's just indicative of how, like, constricted and free speech lacking comedy is and stuff like that. And I just go right back to, you know, I'm using it in a different context, but the Mel Brooks joke where, you know, like, you couldn't make this day, and he's like, well, yeah, just because it was funny then. And that's something I want to use, but in a different context, just to say that, like, how is it like stifling of free speech, like to be like, hey, those old jokes that are not funny because they've been beaten to dead horses and aren't accurate, and you know they're stereotypical and they are racist and stuff like that. But even just that, like, you can't you like, not just you can't, but like also like it's just not going to get a laugh anymore is another way to put it. Like,
I think
it's just not.
I think that's
They're
something
not funny.
that we should all be bringing up way more.
Yeah.
Hey, these jokes that you're making are racist, they're hurtful, they're problematic,
Yeah.
all those things, but also they're fucking lazy, and you're not a funny person. That's what that means, full stop.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, again, like I do want to, like, I was only trepidatious in saying that because, like, I do want to acknowledge that they're stereotypical. I do want to acknowledge that they're racist. But on the other hand, they're also just not
They're
funny. Like,
Yeah.
Again, like, I'm going to keep using the same example because it's the last thing I mentioned, but, like, I don't need to hear a joke about how black people are good at basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's not funny to me.
Yeah,
Even apart from the other stuff where it's offensive and stereotypical and stuff like that, that's just not a funny shit. Like, and I don't mean it in the sense that I'm like, oh, that hurt me, and oh, that's such a mean thing to say. I mean, like, if you're just talking about a joke, what's the joke? Like,
yeah, exactly.
you know what I mean?
But yeah, it's just they're like the oldest thing in the world is just fucking racist stereotypes. So if you make those jokes, you're telling me A, that you're a racist, and B, you are one of the least creative people I know.
Yeah, and that's so anyways, at the end of the day, let's get back on tracks for a quick second. Mr. Aaron Plain eventually
This movie.
gets a pep talk from Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen just happened to be the doctor who was caring for one of Aaron Pilot's the co-pilot buddies in the war or whatever.
Okay.
That that guy got killed because Aaron Pilot's commander told him to go in when he shouldn't have, and that's why Aaron Pilot's like, oh god, that guy died for no reason, all my boys died for no reason. And Leslie Nielsen was like, yeah, I can remember Commander, first name your last name friend, and I can remember him being like, the last thing he said before he died was, by God, the captain did the right thing, he sent us in there and we flew and stuff. And he's like, really he said that and stuff. And it gives him the gusto to go ahead and land the plane and stuff, and they land, and it's all good, crisis averted. And that's the movie. I also want to mention a funny gag where he's sweating a lot. Not nearly as funny as in the Wizard of Oz the other week when that dude's crying and they're just pouring water straight in his face. So yeah, I mean, that's the ultimate thing. I think that's a really good place to end, though, is just to talk about the fact that, yes, in my opinion, this movie has a lot of point and laugh because different. And yes, that's offensive and, racist and stereotypical, playing around with that kind of a thing, yada, yada, whatever. But also it's just, none of that humor holds up anymore. I mean, if I transported myself back to the 70s and I was a white guy and I was like, oh, I can't believe they said it. I've been thinking it sure would be funny. But now, no, I don't need a movie to say the taboo things that I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of, again, contextually, I'm a white dude in the 70s, I might be like, ho, 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 ho. White people sure do talk funny. Maybe I'd be a racist. I don't know. I'd like to think I wouldn't be a racist. I don't know. But all I can say from this perspective right now is, they're just tired jokes that, I've heard 1,000 times from dudes in gas stations and uncles at family parties, and I don't think in my lifetime I've ever really laughed at them. Now, that's not to say that I've never laughed at race-based humor. There are plenty of comedians, who happen to be people of color even, that do it well, and it's funny,
right now.
and it's insightful. There's the joke about there's the Donald Glover has a joke about how he loved Chris Rock growing up, but he wasn't allowed to say the N-word, so he would do Chris Rock bits, but instead of saying the N-word, he would say vampires.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he would do, the whole bit was he was like, because Chris Rock, who in my opinion, Chris Rock does have some sussy shit, like just for example, like his show, I can remember one bit that like my racist family members started co-oping, and a lot of like conservative types did co-op, because his whole joke was, here's how you don't get pulled over by black people. Step 1, turn your music down, and stuff like that. And it's a little bit of like, yikes, you know what I mean? But yeah, the whole bit is basically, if you don't want to get pulled over by by a police officer, don't act black, is kind of what the subtext comes off as. And I brought it up mainly because the Donald Glover joke is him pantomiming Chris Rock's "There's black people and then there's vampires."
Yeah,
and that's the whole foundation of Chris Rock's joke, is that there are N-words,
which is
bad,
suspect. Yeah,
I don't like that. But anyways, my main point was like, yes, there's a good example of playing around with, Donald Glover being like, wouldn't it be funny if I said vampire instead of the N-word?
Yeah, I think it's something I see in a lot of comics that I used to really like and respect. Nowadays, a lot of their like new stand-up sucks, and I hate. I think just what happened is, however many years ago, Chris Rock could tell that bit or something like that, and people would go, ah ha ha ha. But now, our generation and the Gen Zers, and we're all so unbelievably connected with the internet, and we know so many people, and everybody can share their experience, that we have gotten to a point where we realize a lot of stereotypes are few and far between and, hurtful. And so we're like, this just isn't funny. Like, the joke that you're making doesn't really add up, you know?
I was just gonna say, just for example, like, why, like, you think all black people are good at sports just because that's who you see on the basketball field? Because there's a lot of black people out there who don't play, like, a lot more than the 15 people you see on that court, or however many are on any team or in the league or whatever. Yes, there are a lot of black people in, basketball, for example. But that doesn't mean that the millions and millions and millions of other black people play basketball well. I can tell you that's not the case.
And so we have collectively as a society gone, this shit's just not funny. We just don't think it's funny.
Yeah.
Not even, me personally right now, not even bringing up the point of like, we're too politically correct in this and that.
No, not even that. It's just
the bottom line is, this isn't funny to us anymore. And so when I see a comedian like Bill Burr, I can't watch. I feel like Bill Burr is putting out a special twice a year, and I can't fucking watch any stand-up comedy anymore because every comedian goes, "Hey, we're all." This is my Bill Burr impression. "Hey, yeah, we're all too fucking sensitive anymore. You can't make a joke." It's just like, no, that's, or even like the new Dave Chappelle thing where he's making trans jokes. It's like, hey man, this shit's played out. Yeah. You are doing jokes that haven't been funny in about 15 years. Like, whether or not removing, do I think it's offensive out of it? Yeah. It's just not a...
It's barely a joke.
It's barely a joke, and also it's not something... It's what Mel Brooks said. It is not... I'm watching you throw a pie in someone's face, which would arguably be funnier than your transphobic jokes, Dave Chappelle. Yeah. I know you're listening. Yeah. It just... Yeah. That's what I'm going to rate. Spoilers. That's what I'm rating Airplane as.
Would you call that fart noise? Did I put that in our fart noise?
Nah, I put an F. It starts with an F, so I'm giving Airplane an F.
But yeah, I hate to make the same point for the millionth time, but yes, that's the other thing that, like, I wish every, like, comedian out there who's been doing comedy for more than 5 years recently has just been going on this thing about how like, you can't say anything, everybody's too woke. It's like, no, it's just times changed and certain things aren't funny. Like, yes, I'm going to acknowledge that they're hurtful and they're racist and they're stereotypical stuff, but even set that aside, it's just like you were saying, it's like throwing a pie in somebody's face. It's just, you might as well just be going like, oh, you make a better door than you do a window. Like, that's not going to get a laugh anymore. It's just not going to get a laugh anymore. Like, I'm sure maybe in fucking, the year 3 when they invented a window that really killed.
Yeah.
But it's just not the year 3 anymore. I'm sorry.
Anyway, Chris, what do you rate an Airplane?
I feel like I probably gotta give it an F. Which is funny because I can actually probably say, I think this is, you can agree with me, there have been times on this podcast where we've mentioned that like, some of the best comedy movies are parodies, and the first thing that we mention is Airplane.
Yeah.
And gotta eat my words on that one. We just rewatched it, and like I said, it's just, like, yes, I am not afraid to say that there are racist jokes in this movie. But even setting aside any amount of like offense or like, was this upsetting or whatever, it's just, so often not funny compared to the few times that it is funny.
Yeah. And if just by chance anyone from Reddit listens to our podcast, we would love for you to email us at eatingsoupalone@gmail.com and to explain to us why the jive talk scenes are funny. Yeah. Or why the Jewish athletes scene is funny. Yeah. Let us know. We'd love to be informed. We love Chris and I just love knowing stuff, and we'd love to know why we can find. I like liking things. I don't like that I don't like Airplane. So if you can convince me to like that Airplane is a good movie with all good jokes, and we're just too woke because we are
soy
woke.
Boys.
Oh god, we're so woke.
I'm so woke and it feels so good.
Feel free to shoot
That's
an email.
Exactly why I said all those things.
Us two cucks, and we'll try to read it.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to you.
Real quick about the you said explain the jive to me thing and why it's funny. I did read in the NBC thing about how like modern audiences it wouldn't play well, but the whole thing was that it was playing off of like at the time Shaft had just come out or whatever, and like he was like parodying that and stuff like that. And it's like, again, you're parodying the fact that black people talk funny. Like, that doesn't give me any more context.
Yeah, exactly.
That just means that the idea that black people talk funny was more on their minds at the time because a movie came out. Is that what you're saying? Like, I don't know.
And that still doesn't, cover the fact that the only 2 black people in this movie besides Kareem Abdul-Jabbar speak that way.
Yeah.
God, I know we're trying to move on, but I just can't get over it. Like, I miss being able to like Bill Burr. Yeah. Because, like, when I see him on stage or other comedians that are his age and have been around for as long as him, they're just
they still have star power, and you're like, I want to listen, and then you listen like 30 seconds of it, and it's
just them on stage going, I'm out of touch. The world has moved past me. Yeah. But it's always wrapped around, like, when we're over this shit and I'm back on top, you guys are going to see how dumb you were. And it's like, no, bro, you are just, what you were doing is just coming out on stage and going,
why aren't I funny anymore? Why aren't I funny anymore?
You're screaming, why aren't I funny anymore, while slowly opening a coffin and putting one leg in and then flipping the other one over and then going, why aren't I funny anymore? And slamming it shut and going, why aren't I funny anymore?
Yeah, it's kind of like being like, for some reason, all these liberals think these jokes aren't funny anymore. So now that I've prepped you for that, and you feel like you're a rebel for laughing at it, here's a joke that's not even funny, but everybody like gives them like the "can't believe you said it" kind of laugh. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's so just like the comedians being like, we're supposed to be counterculture. We're supposed to be the philosophers. No, you are not. You're supposed to be, honestly, kind of the opposite. You're supposed to be saying something we're all thinking, but we're not as good at what you do as you are to say it in a funny way. Yeah. So make my life funny for me.
Yeah. There have been times where comedians have crossed the threshold, in some people's opinion, like there are figures like, like a George Carlin or even a Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is, his artist statement when he first came on the scene, he claims in a documentary I saw one time was that at the time the Jewish community still treated Hitler like Voldemort, and his whole mantra was, I want to pull Hitler's pants down and make it so that Jewish people aren't afraid to even talk about him anymore.
Yeah.
So there are people who can transcend and do more with comedy, but it's not like your job as a comedian. Like, job number 1 is be funny.
Yeah.
If you can't nail that part, you can't hope to aspire to the heights of someone like George Carlin or Mel Brooks or whatever it is,
Yeah.
So.
Just the whole, you can't say anything without getting canceled anymore. It's a point that gets brought up all the time. That's kind of not true.
Yeah.
You know who just dropped a special not too long ago? Goddamn Louis C.K. And fucking, you can still say whatever you want. It's not that because you're getting canceled, your career is going to be over. Your career is going to be over because you're not funny anymore.
Yeah.
You're not evolving with the times. It's just evolving with what people think is funny anymore. It sucks. So they default to dipshit older right-wing people who are like, yeah, you're right, we can't say this stuff no more. And you know what? I'm going to quote Bill Burr. Bill Burr has a joke about one of the Duck Dynasty guys getting canceled or whatever. And that guy, to him, he was like, but I was a good boy. I did everything I was taught was okay growing up, and I was being a good boy. He thinks he's a good boy. Bill Burr thinks he's a good boy. He's like, I'm talking about the stuff I always been talking about. I'm a good boy. Bill Burr, you being a bad boy.
Yeah, and it almost reminds me of something that's been on my mind lately is like, Jay-Z, right? Started his career in like 96, pretty much almost. I know that these people are deceased, rest in peace, but there's a time period before you're even known where you're still kind of doing it. There's a degree to which where like he's almost contemporary to artists like Biggie and Tupac, but also like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that. And all of those artists have remained relevant and legendary status, and there are plenty of alive rappers as well from that era, and that's also what I'm talking about. There are even people like Nas, who's remained very relevant, has been nominated for Grammys the last couple of albums that he's released and stuff like that. But someone like Snoop Dogg, for example, moved on to other stuff. Started hanging out with the lady who went to jail for insider trading, Martha Stewart. And he's become more of like a celebrity, like a figure.
He's a household name.
Yeah, there are people like Ice Cube who moved into acting and has had a nice acting career, being funny and stuff. But unlike that, Jay-Z was able to stay with the times and continue to have like #1 chart-topping hits up until like, I don't know what he's doing recently, but the last time I remember him being super in the news is like he dropped that album 444 or whatever, and that was like all over the top 10. So all I'm saying is that for like 15, 20 years plus, like he's remained like not only relevant in the way that like a legend would be if they put out like a seminal album or two 20 years ago and now they're around because like that's fucking, you do know who you're talking to. But Jay-Z has remained relevant like alongside people like Drake, who started their career 10, 12 years after him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's just something that's not really comparable, but it's just an example of like if you keep up with the times well, you can sustain not just a reputation, but also like legitimate, like modern day current relevancy. Like I do things right now that are considered still better than most of what's coming out. So we watched Punch Drunk Love also.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so eat a dick, Bill Burr, you dumb shit.
I don't know why we're focusing on him so much. There's also other people out there.
That's true.
Chappelle.
Other comedians, Dave Chappelle, and
took a nosedive. That first Netflix special I thought was so funny.
Oh, I thought.
And then it was like the second one where he was like, "Hang on a second, trans community, you guys are doing a little too well right now."
And we're like,
and I say well in a very like I'm being sarcastic when I say well. Things are not great for their community right now.
Yeah, to the point where like, because he did like 9 of them, and then that last one isn't even jokes.
He did one called One More Punch.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, it's hot as fuck in here. I don't know if you've noticed, I've taken off half of my clothes already. I got a tummy ache, and I'm also very hungry, so let's talk about Punch Drunk Love.
Yeah, let's talk about Punch Drunk Love. Oh, God, a letter just hit me in the face. Where did this one come from? Punch Drunk Love. 2002. Hot damn, that little guy Paul Tommy Andy sure can make a motion picture starring, surprisingly, Adam Sandler. Punch Drunk Love is PTA's attempt at making a romantic comedy. You arguably failed this goal, but that's fine because this film is something all its own and is better for it, in my opinion. 8 out of 10.
Christopher, just read Punch Drunk Love.
I don't know. I saw it at some point and just fell in love. You?
It is like every movie you recommend to me,
Yeah.
like Chris, you know what I know I'm gonna love? L.A. Confidential. You know what I don't want to fucking watch for some reason? L.A. Confidential. Like I've said it. I'm pretty sure I've said it on the show before, but I hate being told what to do, and that even comes down to recommendations. When someone recommends something to me, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
But yeah, just one day, after hearing you talk about it forever and ever, I just sat down here at home alone one night and watched Punch Drunk Love, and I was like, fuck, this movie's so good. And then I picked it this week, and I watched it last night, and I was like, God, this movie's still so good. I would like to get more versed in Paul Thomas Anderson. I think I've seen this, There Will Be Blood, Boogie Nights, and Magnolia.
Yes.
And I'm missing, Licorice Pizza's the newest one.
Mm-hmm. There was also Inherent Vice, which I
Vice.
didn't care for.
I haven't seen it. I'd really like to.
There's also The Master, I
I
believe.
haven't seen The Master. Is he the Phantom Thread as well?
Maybe. I don't know.
I know it's Daniel Day-Lewis's last
Yeah.
movie, but I don't know if it's a PTA
Yeah.
joint.
This may be my favorite PTA joint. It's
Oh, yeah?
always neck and neck with Magnolia. I
Yeah,
always talk
it's-
about it's.
Like, he might be, as someone who hasn't seen all of his movies, and the ones I have seen, I've seen once, maybe twice. He might be like hit for hit my favorite director.
Yeah.
I loved
I kept
everything
thinking
I've
about the
seen from
whole
him.
time
Yeah.
I was watching. I was like, how is this guy so good? There's only one corny thing. There's like a transitory scene where you see that kind of like pastel-y, but not pastel, like it looks almost like painting. You know, it comes up during
Yeah,
the
yeah.
what is that? Like it's like the title card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it comes up a lot.
What
in
is
this
that?
movie. I don't know. It's like
whatever it is.
They
It's
use
some
it as
kind
like
of
a
painting?
transition for some reason.
Yeah.
It's just like paintings over and over
Yeah.
again.
But anyways, it's the transition into the woman that he was on the sex hotline phone with.
Yeah.
Like she's talking to the guys that she's gonna send to go beat up Andy for money. Andy Sandler.
Yes.
And he says, like, the first line of dialogue before you're anything is just him saying, like, can I take the brothers? And like, I don't know, it just hits me a little weird. It
Okay,
hits me
I get
like it just sounds like something that, like, I don't know. It sounds like film school dialogue writing kind of a thing. It's
I
like
get
the
that,
only
yeah.
thing that sticks out is like overly dramatic about like, oh, that's just a weird thing to say. Like, can I take the brothers? Like, why are they the brothers? Why are they known as the brothers?
No, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a weird. But that's the only blemish for me. The rest of it,
I would say, one, yes, he did the Phantom Thread. But two, I wrote it down in my notes. There's that scene where Barry and Lena are walking away and they're holding hands. And the transition it does is the circle that gets smaller and stops around their hands and then closes. That's horribly corny. It does not fit any part of this movie, but I'll allow it.
Yeah.
I liked it anyway. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
God, I can't. I'm goo goo gaga over this
Oh
movie.
yeah,
It's so good.
this is a movie I drool over. So to begin, my understanding of the lore is that PTA had such a big hit on his hands with Boogie Nights that basically the studio that he was working with, I think it was New Line Cinema at the time, was like, you can do whatever you want with your next movie. And he set out to basically write what he considered, or at least what was his idea, for Punch Drunk Love, which was to be a very small scale story to kind of like juxtapose like the ensemble cast of Boogie Nights. And then the reason why he ended up naming the movie Magnolia is because slowly, as he was trying to make Punch Drunk Love, it just kept billowing out like a magnolia flower until it was an even bigger ensemble cast movie than Boogie Nights. So eventually, when he got the chance to make Boogie Nights, again, his goal was to just strip it way back into a very simple story again. You know, it was his take two of like, all right, I fucked it up the first time and did a way big movie on accident. Now I want to do a way small movie. And this is, in my opinion...
So much in this small movie. It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, that in my opinion, it's one of those things where like this almost seems like Paul Thomas Anderson watched too many David Lynch movies before making this. It doesn't have like the nightmarish, like surreal-y stuff, but it has like that just like continually minimal surreal, like off kilter, like people saying things and then taking too long of a pause between.
Yeah.
But not in like a overly dramatic, like A24 kind of way. It's almost like this awkward, never gets going fully, but somehow has a bunch of steam powering the engine, kind of like awkward, like nervous energy to it.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like there's like, how many things are going on in this movie? He's running the business. He's trying to get with Lena. He's trying to navigate his family, and he's getting blackmailed.
Mm-hmm.
And they all move at different paces.
Yeah.
But they all like resolve at the same time, kind
Yeah.
of. But it feels like with the business and his love interest, it's like kind of like a stop, start.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's ignoring in the background the full steam ahead blackmail.
Yeah.
So you kind of forget about that, and then he'll pick up the phone, and it's like you get hit by a train,
Yeah.
and it's just so good.
But my David Lynch examples are like Philip Seymour Hoffman reminds me of like a character almost like not Robert Duvall. What's the guy's name in Blue Velvet? The bad guy.
Dennis Hopper.
Philip Seymour Hoffman reminds me of almost like a Dennis Hopper in Blue Velvet type character. He's just evil and there, and you never get anything about him or what he's got going on.
So it's sorry. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. I think we just equally love this movie,
Yeah.
and every time you keep talking about it, I'm like, I got like 10 things to say about that are kind of related.
Yeah.
I think this movie has the absolute best use of Philip Seymour Hoffman in any movie
Yeah.
because he's arguably not even really in it.
Yeah.
But when he is in it, you are getting as much Philip Seymour Hoffman acting as you are getting in Synecdoche, New York. Like he slams all that into the 2 minutes he's on screen, and he's just effective in this and the feel of the whole movie as he is Synecdoche, New York. But
Yeah.
he's in this movie for maybe less than
2
3
minutes,
minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to bring up to support my David Lynch case is like take any scene and it sounds like David Lynch is pitching you a movie sitting next to you. Close your eyes for a minute. There's a man and he's sitting in an empty room. There's nothing on the walls. It's just his desk. And he's sitting there and he's on the phone and he's talking to a yogurt company about a promotion they're running, about frequent flyer miles. The man has realized he can scam the company for more frequent flyer miles than the yogurt company is selling their product for. Then he decides to get up from his desk and it's almost dusk. He goes outside, the sky is purplish. He takes a sip of his coffee. He's watching the street. There's no one on the street because it's so early in the morning. And then a car accident barrels down the street. And he's in awe of this. He's very nervous by this. He's a nervous gentleman. And then, before he can even process that's happened, a cab pulls up, a taxi cab, a checkered yellow taxi cab. And he drops a small harmonium onto the street and then peels off. And then suddenly it's quiet. And the man is standing there staring at the small harmonium.
I'm sorry, David. This is Mark from the network. I don't mean to interrupt, but didn't you tell us that this was a romantic comedy?
Yes, we're getting there. As he's looking at the harmonium, a young woman by the name of Lena walks up to him, and she says, "Hi, is the mechanic open yet?" And he says, "No, the mechanic doesn't open until 8. She goes, "Oh, I thought it opened at 7. Can you take the keys and give the car keys to the mechanic when he gets in?"
Yeah, that's perfect. That's it. Yeah, and also, Chris, I love how your David Lynch impression faded but grew at the same time. Like you kind of dropped the of David Lynch, but you started toward the end nailing just like how he pronounces and structures sentences.
Yeah.
That was great. I was very impressed. But no, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
There's so much of it that, like, if you think about it as a sentence David Lynch would say,
Yeah.
like, it almost feels to me like it's not, because obviously Paul Thomas Anderson made it, but this is the closest I think we'll get to, like, if David Lynch made a romantic comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, right from the rip, I love.
Love the suit. It's my first note.
I do love the suit. Yes, I also will shout out Luis Guzman. Immediately he comes in and he's like, "What's with the suit, Barry?" And he's like, "I don't know. I saw it and I just thought I should wear a suit to work, So I'm wearing a suit."
My favorite thing about Luis Guzman in this movie
is that he shows up the next day wearing a suit.
Yes,
I love
yes, that's
that.
great. But I love that. Like, I always feel like Luis Guzman is going to give him shit about whatever he's doing.
He's one of my favorite character actors. I love.
He's
Luis
so
Guzman.
good. Like, I love later when he's like, he's like, what's going on? Where have you been? He's like, I'm gonna go on a trip. I'm going to Hawaii. He's like, you're going on a trip? How fantastic!
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's interesting that he has this guy right here who obviously likes him a lot.
Yeah.
Like he wore a suit to work, and so he's like, I'm gonna wear a suit too. Like that's something you do if you like somebody. And yet the Barry character is lonely, despite having this character right here who seems to be interested in being more than just coworkers with him.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Just from the rip, you already get. I think when he's on the phone with the gentleman, the opening scene, you already get his lonely characteristic. Because he mentions like I think he says something like he asks the guy's name and he's like, I can call you back at this number. I'll be able to call you back. You know, he's really like, it just signals like I'm looking for a specific human interaction.
Yeah, when he goes, I can give you my home phone number in case you want to call me back whenever.
He's like, business hours should be fine. Yeah. And then when he meets with Lena, I like that the first thing he does is he ducks and he hides around the corner, even though she's obviously leaving and stuff like that. And he has to peek around to make sure she's gone. Again, it's just the anxious thing.
I think what's so funny about that is I think, I could be remembering this wrong, but I think she's gone.
Yeah.
She's out of sight, and then he hides behind the corner.
Yeah. And it's just because he needs to like decompress and like process that and stuff like that.
Yeah,
That's how anxious he is and stuff.
I want to bring up two things just immediately.
Okay.
One, how fucking like I want to talk about how like God, I don't want to use the word genius. I want to talk about how like
ingenious
how inspired the choice of Adam Sandler in this movie is, because it's like, I don't think this might be his first like serious movie, but I think what works about him so well in this is probably what works so well about him in Uncut Gems.
I haven't seen it yet, so don't talk about it too much.
It's great. It's just his performances. He is doing an Adam Sandler character, but he's got the dial set very specifically at like halfway, or something like that. So for this very anxious guy, or the over the top kind of real life personality of a pawn shop owner in Uncut Gems, it just works in such a beautiful way that I would never imagine coming from Adam Sandler. Like we will absolutely get to it later, but there are so many scenes where I'm like, this is like an Adam Sandler bit that if I saw in an Adam Sandler movie, I'd be like, but because he's here in this movie and it's not, the joke is kind of like, look how silly this guy is, but also I believe him and I love this guy and I want everything to work out for Barry. The fact that when he's running away from the guys chasing him, he's going while he's running is such like a dumb Adam Sandler bit, but it's so endearing on top of he's running for his life and he's making the sound because he can't run anymore, but he's still running. I
think I'm gonna go on a limb. He almost has a bit of the Gene Wilder thing. Where through his comedy so often in his movies, the thing is that he's like, they're doing it! Like he explodes in anger, and so like you know that that's in him, and that's part of the character. It's almost like the character was written for him, because even in the scenes where he's nice and even in the scenes where he's nice and quiet and stuff like that, you just know that it's right there. Even when like you know, not even his sister's pestering or something like that, he just has that like you're uneasy. You buy into like his anxiety, because you feel a little anxious watching him, because you know that that's coming and that he can do that he can smash the windows and stuff
absolutely.
Like that. But yeah, I think one of the next things we get, stop me if I'm wrong, is him doing a sales pitch.
Yes.
And his sisters start calling to see if he's going to that party.
So annoying. But my note that I wrote down here is, Chris, would you rather have sex with a centaur or a tauren?
Moving on. So he's given the like a demonstration to the people, and they keep calling, and you know the guy's like, "You have a sister?" He's like, "Yeah, actually I have 7." And
I love that they keep calling, and he's like, "Sorry, that was my other sister."
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my other sister.
Yeah.
He goes, "How many sisters do you have?" He goes, "I have 7."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What are you?" I don't know. I think he says to her later, and she's like, "I'm an only child." He goes, "Oh, that sounds nice."
Yeah. There are so many things like, oh yeah, I love that bit where he just keeps like, he's like, "I'll be right back. I have to get that." Like, just like clearly annoyed, but still being so nice. Like he is a character. You know, Barry is so nice. You know, he's just like, "Just a second. Yep, 1 second. 1 second." He's almost like Charlie Bucket. I love that when he's given the display, there's so many little jokes in this movie that are not laugh out loud funny, but I like they make me laugh harder than I laughed at Airplane. Like when he was like, "We've already sold all of the money in the tube plungers to a casino in Vegas," or whatever. Like he just says it so casually, like nonchalant, or whatever. It makes me laugh.
Or like, with these new models, they are basically indestructible. It's like at the counter and it explodes.
He's like, "This must be the old one. We still have a couple old ones laying around. Could you go get one of the new ones? Thank you. I'm sorry about that."
Yeah, so good.
And it's also sold perfectly by the fact that neither of the guys move when it blows up. Like the two guys he's selling to just stay completely still. Anyways, yeah, we already get a taste of the fact that they're awful. I don't know when the first time that he goes hunting in the grocery store is for the products.
I think it's
Is it before or after the party?
After.
After?
Before.
Before.
I
Okay.
think what happens is Gale Snail shows up at work.
Yeah,
correct?
and she says,
Right.
"Yeah, I have a friend from work that I really like you to meet." And he's like, "Oh, well, there's an outside chance I'm not even going tonight." And she's like, "Really? Because you told everybody you're going, you know?" And they have a whole conversation about like, yeah,
I wrote down so many quotes from this movie in my notes, but God, when she's like, "I have a friend and I want to set you up," and he goes, "Oh no, I don't do things like that."
yeah. And she's like, "Yeah, Barry, you don't do much of anything or whatever." But anyways, when he goes hunting for the best product to get the most frequent flyer miles out of this advertising error, it's something like, oh, for every $1 you spend, you get 500 frequent mile, whatever the hell it is, or every product or whatever it is. And he's like, come on, what am I looking for? And he's going around looking around and there's a little thing that I noticed, which is that in the background there's the man in the red shirt who follows him. He's at the end of the aisle and he looks, and then that guy like goes away or whatever. But then when he's like walking later on, there's a woman you never even see in focus. She's just a red blob that keeps like following him.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
is it
love
really?
It's got to be because it's
Yeah, because she's
the
wearing
dress.
red. Yeah, okay.
Oh, it's so good. I wrote it down on my notes because it's so good. I just absolutely love that. Like you don't, like they're not even. Like, I don't. It's just I don't want to use the word genius, but it's so inspired.
This movie is genius.
Like just there's absolutely nothing about it is indicating to you that she's in the grocery store at the same time as him and they just like ships in the night past each other, but because she's the only person wearing something that bright in this white boring ass grocery store, she's so out of focus and so in the background you just immediately know it's her.
Barry shows up to the party, and immediately they're talking. All 7 sisters are talking about him and about how angry he used to get. And we used to call him Gay Boy. We'd always call him Gay Boy and stuff like that. And he comes in, and they're like, "You remember when we used to call you Gay Boy?" And he's like, "What's that?" And they're like, "We used to call you Gay Boy." And he's like, no, I don't remember
Why'd
that.
you have a hammer?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, what I love what he says. They keep saying, I don't remember. And then there's a bunch of parties. He's like, "Why did you have that hammer?" He's like, "Why did I have the hammer?" Like he doesn't fully understand what they're saying, kind of a thing.
Like no, I think like he's saying it like that, but you can so obviously tell that he knows exactly what they're talking about.
Which gets into something I want to make note of. This is maybe the first, maybe there's been one before, but there's many instances throughout the movie where he tells little white lies like them.
Yeah.
Like we're barreling towards the scene with the dentist's brother-in-law, and we'll get there. But I just want to note now that he does that often. He lies usually for like the sake of self-preservation. It's not mean lies. They're just kind of like little white lies where he's just trying to avoid trouble with people and stuff like that. And I want to mention that the only time he's ever honest with somebody is with Lena.
Yeah,
they're in the car
all the time.
and she's like, "What's with the little piano?" And she's like, "Did you steal out of the street?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did." He uses the same inflection he does when he lies, because he usually goes like, no, he's lying, or something like that. And in that moment, you can just feel like him deciding like, yeah, instead of saying like, yeah, no, he's just gonna be like, yeah, I did.
Yeah, no, and I love like later, like whenever they're on dates or like after they go to Hawaii and stuff like that. Like I think it's like it's like maybe the last scene of the movie when they're like hugging at her door and he apologizes for leaving her at the airport. He goes, "I smashed up the bathroom when we went to that restaurant." Like he just like or like even when they're in the bed, she's like, "What business do you have in Hawaii? Where do you need to go?" And he goes, "I don't have any. I came here to see you." It's just like he just very slowly like more and more opens up to this girl. I absolutely love the cake joke when he sees his sisters because it's so quiet and it's so understated. I don't think understated is the word I'm looking for. But he gives his sister, he goes, "Oh, happy birthday," and gives her a cake. She goes, "Oh, a cake. You brought me a cake from it. We already have a cake." And it's just the biggest cake you've ever seen.
He's got a little tiny one.
And she puts it down, and then like the scene passes, and he talks to Gail, the snail sister, and she's like, "I told my friend not to come, so you're off the hook." He's like, "Oh, cool, thank God," blah, blah, blah. And him and the brother-in-law are talking. And like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And there's a beat, and I was watching this with headphones on at maximum volume, and I could barely hear it. But like amongst the chatter in the background is his sister going, "Yeah, he brought me a fucking cake for my birthday. It's my birthday. Like, I don't have a fucking cake already."
Yeah.
And it's so good. Just like every time there's like chitter chatter with the sisters in the background, it is somebody talking shit about him. It's so good.
He talks to his brother-in-law and he says, "Barry, how's work or whatever?" And he's like, "Oh, business is food." And his sister goes, "Did you just say food?" And he's like, "Food? What? No, I think I said good." She's like, "You said food." And then there's like a beat, and the brother-in-law goes, "Maybe you said it because you were hungry."
Yeah.
or whatever. And then and then I think there's something else that the sister says that it breaks the camel's back, and he smashes the sliding glass windows with a hammer, or it kicks it or whatever.
Fuck, Barry.
Yeah, and they call him more awful slurs. And then they end up in the laundromat, the brother-in-law and Barry, and he says, I don't like myself, and sometimes I cry and stuff like that. And this is another great comedic moment that I think about all the time, where he's like, Barry, I'm a dentist. And he's like, I just thought maybe you had like other doctor friends, you know.
Yeah, and I do genuinely love this scene. I love the brother-in-law, how supportive he is, and he's just like, but if it's about getting you in contact with a psychiatrist, I can definitely help you with that, Barry. What's going on?
Yeah.
And Barry's like, I just don't like myself,
Yeah.
and I don't really have anyone I can talk to, and I feel bad all the time for no reason, and I just sometimes I just start crying.
And then he's like,
nowhere.
cries at his hands. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just such a good, like Adam Sandler's comedic timing. But he goes, I cry out of nowhere sometimes, and he starts losing it into his hands. It's
I will say I don't know in terms of dialogue or chitter, but it seems like Gail the Snail is perhaps the sister who cares the most about him.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to be overly mean so much as she's just very forward. She's very blunt. Like, she's the one that wants to bring someone to the party. She's the one that goes and sees him in person about, hey, did you talk to my husband about needing a therapist? Like, what's going on, you know? It just happens to be awful timing, and Barry doesn't really want to be open with her. But those things to me show that, like, Gail, you know, is someone that genuinely is interested in her brother and wants her brother to be doing well.
I would say no.
Okay.
I would say I get the feeling from her. This could just be me projecting. I get the feeling from her in her actions and the way she talks to him and about him that she doesn't so much care that her brother's doing well as that she doesn't like how embarrassed she is of her brother, and she wants to change that.
Okay.
Like did you tell my husband that you wanted a therapist? What is wrong with you? What do you need? Why are you? Or as soon as he's away from her and Lena, Gail Snail goes, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's so fucking weird sometimes, like trying to immediately make excuses for, listen, I know my brother's this way, but it doesn't reflect me at all, you know? It feels, everything she does feels malicious in some way, even though I know what you're saying, and she's the only one actively trying to help him, but it feels like in a disgusted way, kind of. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. No, it makes it complicated, and that's what makes it good.
Yeah.
So anyways, after the party,
Sex line.
sex line. He goes home. He calls a sex line because, again, he's just a lonely guy trying to. It's a scam.
Yeah, I love. Again, this is just one of the not the funniest thing in the world, but I laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. Can you have him call me Jack? I just don't want him knowing who I am. Yeah, sure. They'll call you Jack. That's fine. And I love. He has to hang up so that they can call him back, and he's waiting there for a bit, and they call back, and he goes, hello, this is Mac.
Yeah. And she goes, back, I'm looking for Jack.
So fucking good.
Yeah. And then he wakes up in the morning, and she calls back. She says, hey, I need $750 for rent. And he's like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't afford that. And she's like, I thought you were a big businessman or whatever. And he's like, yeah, no. Or I think what happens is she says, I need some help financially. He's like, yeah, I can't afford that. And she's like, I haven't even told you how much. And he's like, okay, how much? And she's like, $750. He's like, yeah, I can't afford that. No.
I love she gets angry and angry. Like, listen, I'm going to make your life fucking awful. I can call you at work. Would you like that? Would you like me to call you at work? Do you know how this is going to go, Barry? And he's like, I love that during this whole scene, he's like halfway out the door. Yeah. And when things start getting intense, he goes, right before hanging up, he goes, okay, no thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. I also I think we missed it. I want to say it's during the sales pitch he's making in the beginning. After all the calls from the sisters and stuff like that, I think he takes one of the calls in his office or whatever, and then he stands by the harmonium and plays it for a minute, and it gets like artsy and funny, and then it's immediately deflated by him walking into the door. The pull door, he tries to push it. Very funny. But anyways, he goes to work, and at work, I think this is when Gail brings in Lena. We just talked about this kind of a thing just a second ago. A big accident happens out there. Him and Lena are alone, and there's already kind of a connection. You can just feel it. They like each other.
Should you go check on that? I love that he goes, yeah.
Anybody hurt out there? So anyways, how much? Do you do what my sister does, or do you do something else? Yeah. And basically, eventually, she leaves with Gail, but then Lena pretends to go into her car and waits for Gail to leave. When Gail leaves, she goes back in, and she's like, hi, I want to take you to dinner tomorrow. And he's like, okay. And she's like, is 7 okay? 8 okay? And he's like, okay. And that kind of a thing. It's a nice little bit.
It's great, yeah. Very cute.
Do they go? Does it cut immediately to them at the dinner?
That's what I remember next. Yes.
They're at the dinner and they're having a little conversation. This someone's always stuck out to me. She's honest with him and she says, I gotta be honest, I saw your picture on her desk and I was like, I gotta meet that guy, kind of a thing, and I just want to let you know that because I didn't want there to be anything in the beginning and whatnot. And
This is suspect to me.
Yeah.
Yes, everything about what she says here,
Uh-huh.
it feels very sweet, and I'm happy that Barry's happy, but also this feels gross. Especially
Okay.
when she's like, I dropped my car off there on purpose because I know it is next door to where you work.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a picture of you on your sister's desk and thought, that guy's hot. I gotta
Yeah.
meet him.
Yeah.
That's suspect. I don't like any of that. I think their relationship, happy for Barry, happy he's growing, but
Yeah.
throughout this whole movie, I'm like, this is not a good relationship for either of them.
This is a scene though that has always stuck out to me because I love his little bit where he's like, there's this radio program and I just love the radio DJs, and in fact I feel like he almost talks like David Lynch during that scene and talks with his hands in the same way. And he's like, and there's this DJ Justice and I just like, he always tells what it is, he's always cutting people down to size or whatever, and this guy calls and he tells the whole thing about confusion, and he's like, confusion or Confucius or whatever, and it's just one of those things where like I love that they had Barry give like such a dead fish of a
Yes,
anecdote
absolutely,
there. Like,
absolutely.
that makes it so much better, and the fact that she's still like genuinely like laughing and looking at him, and it should have killed, like the intent I feel like is that it should have killed the date,
Yeah.
but she likes him so it doesn't.
Yeah, she's just so enamored by him
Yeah.
and how sweet and
Yeah.
shy and stuff he is. And
Yeah, and she brings up the fact that the sisters have told him about like the anger problem kind of thing, and that trips him off.
How does Adam Sandler get so red so fast in that moment? Like, that's the best acting I've seen in a human being. Is
Yeah.
you watch it happen in less than a second. He goes, and his skin gets bright red immediately. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you do that to yourself, Adam Sandler?
And he goes and he smashes up the bathroom. And then he comes back to the fucking table and they have a little bit of conversation. She's like, are you all right? You're bleeding. He's like, yeah, no, I'm fine. It's like that. And then a sir comes to him and says, sir, come with me, would you? Or whatever. And they go talk in a little nook. And I love that he's like, did you just destroy the bathroom or whatever? And he's like, yeah, no, that wasn't me. And he's like, well, the bathroom's all smashed up. And he's like, yeah, I wonder who did that.
I think the first thing he says is, someone just destroyed our bathroom. He goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it you? Yeah, no.
Then he's like, sir, I have no way to prove that you smashed up the bathroom or whatever. Yeah, he keeps saying smash the bathroom and stuff, and he's like, I'm going to have to ask you to go. He's like, come on, no. And I think at one point he says, like, please don't do this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
goes,
don't
"Please
do this. Yeah,
man.
please don't do this.
Get out of here. I'm going to bash your fucking head in.
Yeah. And then he goes to the table and he says, like, hey, we should get out of here or whatever, and they leave.
He goes, hey, manager's behind him. He
Yeah.
hasn't sat down. He whispers in her ear, hey, yeah, I don't really like this place. I think we should go.
Yeah. They're in the car, and this is the honesty scene where she asks
Yep.
him, like, did you steal that harmonium? And he goes, yeah, I did. Was it yours? And she's like, no, I just, kind of want to know, whatever.
I also do love when they're at dinner and he tells her about the frequent flyer miles. And he gets real quiet,
Oh,
and it is
yeah.
the most confident he is in the entire movie. And he gets done with it, and she goes, that's so weird. And he goes, yeah.
And then they go back to her place, and he walks her to the door.
And they talk for a little bit in her apartment. And then he leaves. She tells him about her trip to Hawaii and stuff like that. And this is the funniest part of the movie to me. It's probably my favorite part.
Yeah.
He's saying goodbye. And he goes, and I hope to see you again soon. And enjoy your trip. And bye-bye. And then he leaves, and it's him walking down the hallway alone. And he's just going, and bye-bye. And bye-bye. And bye-bye, fucking. And bye-bye, stupid fucking.
Yeah. Very funny. But by the time he gets to the door, she's called.
Yeah, she calls down to the lobby.
Yeah, down to the lobby. And she says,
Hey, I don't know where you're going right now or what you're gonna do, but I just want you to know that I really wanted to kiss you before you left. And then he sprints back.
and he's like trying to like look and remember.
And he's running all over the place. He like pushes through one door. It goes outside. An alarm goes off. He goes, and he just runs back up the stairs.
And they kiss.
Yeah.
And then the next scene. What's the next scene?
The next scene, I think, is do the brothers find him? Probably a lot of the sex hotline business has been being cut to and from. We
Yeah.
just are skipping over it. But
Yeah,
Philip
I think we
Seymour
cut
Hoffman,
to the brothers probably being told they got to roll out. Philip Seymour Hoffman's there. He's drinking just a drink out of a Hardee's cup. It could have been filmed in California and been Carl's Jr., but they're sister companies or whatever the fuck. And so I've always, in my mind, associated eating at Harvey's with someone who wants to live off the grid and isn't interested in the government being in their business, or perhaps someone who's trying to avoid some kind of governmental or authoritative body.
Yeah, I feel the same way because I've
yeah.
never seen one.
Yeah, and so him having that to me, on brand is all I'm gonna say. On brand that he would go to Hardee's. But he gives the skinny to these guys. He says $100 day work, it's more money than your family's making or whatever the fuck, and they got to pay.
I'm only
for
paying
gas.
2 of you.
Yeah, and they got to pay for gas, whatever. And then I believe maybe we got ahead of ourselves, and that happened a little bit earlier, and the brothers get him on the way home from date with Lena?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough because he wears the same outfit through this whole movie, so I don't know when anything happens.
And so, they scam him out of like $500 or whatever.
And he gives some shit about it.
Yeah.
And then they try to beat him up, and then he runs and does it's so funny.
Yeah.
And then I love, like, he's running down the street at one point, and they drive by him, and they slow down to be at speed with him. They're like, where are you going? We know where you live.
Yeah.
And then I think he goes straight to work from there.
And at work, is this when he brings Luis Guzman to go buy all the puddings and stuff like that, because Lena's leaving for Hawaii and he wants to have enough frequent flyer miles for it. It's very fun. They're running around together, and he's like, I'm going to go get in line. You go grab some more, whatever, all that kind of stuff.
I love that Luis Guzman, he says it twice, so you know it's not an accident. He says, I'm going to get online.
And they go back, and I believe Barry calls and says, he's told that basically it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks for those to accumulate or whatever, or mature, whatever.
Yeah, because he wants to get his free tickets so he can go to Hawaii with Lena.
Yeah, and he does end up going to Hawaii.
With his own money.
Yeah. He's in Hawaii. There's all kinds of commotion on the street, some kind of parade or something like that. And he's at a payphone, and he's trying to call his sister and ask about, where Lena's hotel is.
Why do you want to know?
Yeah, and he's
Why
like,
do you want to know, Barry?
I'll fucking murder you. Do you want that? Is that what you want? You want me to murder you?
I'll fucking kill you. Is that what you want? Do you want that?
Yeah. And he does get her number, whatever he calls, but a man answers, and for a minute your heart sinks.
Yeah.
But then he's like, you got the wrong number or whatever. Or the wrong room. And so he calls the hotel back. He gets Lena's thing or whatever. He says, I'm in Hawaii. They meet up. They have a wonderful time.
I love on the phone, he's talking to her, and he goes, you don't have a boyfriend, do you? And she goes, no. And he goes, okay, I was just making sure. What was the last time you were in a relationship? And she's like, oh, this, that. And she's like, do you want to just talk about this in person? He goes, yeah. Where are you from originally?
And they have a nice little time. There's also the phone call she gets the next day from the sister, and she's like, he's really weird, isn't he? She's like, yes, he is a little odd, or all that kind of stuff. They go home, and the next thing I remember is them getting into the car accident with the brothers. The brothers ram the thing.
I think so.
For the first time, Barry snaps, and he doesn't just destroy an inanimate object. He beats up a bunch of people, all the brothers. And she goes to the hospital, and that's when...
I love that he beats the shit out of them with the tire iron, goes to the last guy who's in the car, who, scatters into the back seat. He smashes out the window with the tire iron that they had, puts his upper body into the car, and just hands the tire iron back to the guy in the back. That's a good move.
But basically, she's at the hospital, and he abandons her because he's got to go and give a mattress man the business.
Yeah, he runs to his office to call him. Yeah.
And he goes to D&D Mattress Services or Cleaning or whatever the fuck that is to meet our bad guy.
Yeah, he flies all the way there. What is it, North Dakota or Kansas or
something
some shit like that?
Yeah. And he basically gives him the little speech. Do you have the speech ready? Did you write that down? Where he basically talks about how he's like, I don't care about the money kind of a thing. I just want this to be over with. So I came all this way just to say that's that mattress man.
No, the only thing I have written down is he comes in, he's like, hey, fuck you, and they're getting they're starting to get angry at each other.
Yeah. That's after he says that little bit, and he's like, you came all this way to say that's that? And he's like, yeah. And he walks over to him, he's like, fuck you. And he's like, fuck you, you piece of shit. He's like, whoa, you called me a piece of that kind of thing. Yeah.
Before the mattress man speech, though, when he's walking up to him while he's getting the haircut, and he's like, what are you fucking doing here? And Perry goes, I have so much strength in me, you have no idea.
We also met the first time they talked on the phone a long time ago. There was their very first time where he's like, hey, one of your girls is a square. He's like, fuck you, whatever. And he's like,
no, that was immediately before this.
Oh, really? Was it?
He calls him on the phone,
he's
and
like,
then he flies there.
Shut,
go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You just tell me? No, yeah, so good.
Very good.
Yeah, he gives a great match. Also, I love I know it's immediately because he calls him.
Yeah.
And then he leaves to go get on the plane, but you see him running out of work with the phone.
Yeah.
And then I love that you don't see it until he's about to leave Kansas or wherever he's in to talk to the mattress man. He still has the phone in his hand.
Yeah. And in this conversation, I really do like how sincerely he says, I came, I just, that's that mattress man. He's like, you came all this way to say that's that. You know, that kind of a thing. It's nice.
You tell anyone about this?
Yeah.
No. Well, that's it. Yeah, get out of here, you fucking pervert. What did you just fucking say? All right, that's that.
Yeah, he said, "Oh, that's that." Yeah, so good.
So good. And then he rushes to the hospital. She's gone. And then I love that he runs back to
I
work.
love that he thought she'd still be in the hospital. He's been gone for so long.
Yeah. He runs back to work. Everyone's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Nothing. I'm fine. I'll be back later." And picks up the, and still in a full sprint picks up the whatever the piano's called and runs back to her place.
Yeah. Yeah, and he gives her the speech about being sorry they left you at the hospital, and
Yeah. I smashed up the bathroom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And is that the?
I think that's the end.
I think that's the very end.
And that's where it ends. And wow, what a phenomenal movie. To a degree, I'm almost at a loss for words. This is a beautiful movie. It's a funny movie. You said it perfectly in the beginning, where it's like it's so small scale and yet it encompasses so much. It's almost like Paul Thomas Anderson can't help his little self. Somehow it's stripped back as you possibly could get following something like Magnolia, and yet at times as big as Magnolia can get. It's got action, it's got thrills, it's got chills, it's got laughs. No gills. There's no real water in this one.
Yeah, it sucks. That's the only thing it's missing.
Kind of hint, but it's A+ for me.
I adore this movie. I think it's
great soundtrack. I love the little remixed version of Shelley Duvall's "He Needs Me" from the Popeye soundtrack.
Yep.
I hate when people tell me like, "Oh, do you know that Paul Thomas Anderson was just doing like an art house remake of Popeye? That was his whole thing." I was like, no, it probably wasn't.
Yeah, but Chris, did you also know he's doing like an art house kind of like it's supposed to be a Superman movie because she's his cape. She's in the dress, so when she hugs him around, it looks like the cape.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
No.
But also, maybe I love Superman, so I'm fine with that being.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the Popeye thing, but I'm tired of like dudes who like movies come up to me and be like, "You know, that's just like a remake of Popeye. It's just Paul Thomas Anderson doing his version of Popeye." That's not what he set out to do.
Did you know that you haven't had any original thoughts, sir? Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's the best use of Adam Sandler in anything. I love. It's just it's probably the shortest Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
It's only like 35 or 38
hour
or something.
35, yeah.
Hour 35.
Just so quick, just a wonderful little put on this movie, watch it, enjoy every minute of it, and then you still got the rest of your day. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I can't. We gushed about it as much as we could at the beginning, and I can't say anything new about it. Chris, I'm going to give this movie. I'm going to give it an A+. I was thinking about an S.
All right.
I'm going to give it an A+.
Okay. I wonder what's in the S. I can't remember what you have in the S tier.
The Shining and other. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But yeah, how far into this are we?
2 hours.
2 hours? So that's not going to be accurate after I edit it. But we have come all this way to say that's that mattress.
No,
Man.
we got to watch. What are we watching next week?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I don't know what you're thinking, but I was thinking I would go ahead and say Raising Arizona. It's been on my mind for a while. It's not like I got a burning desire, but Raising Arizona.
I want to talk about, so last week we did your Thanksgiving movies. I want to talk about maybe my not Thanksgiving, not Christmas movies, that little gray area in between. For some reason, to me, Chris, that time of year screams James Bond.
Okay.
We have talked in the past about watching all of them. And that's going to be tough because there are A lot of them.
I will do them sometimes.
And B, even the best James Bond movies are very long and very boring. And so I think that could be tough.
That's all right. Let's do it. Let's lock in. Let's start it off.
Hold on.
Let's knock it off.
I got a suggestion.
Okay.
Just dip a toe real quick. We watch Dr. No, the first one, the first James Bond movie, and then we do Casino Royale. So we get the spectrum.
Let's watch Dr. No. We might fall in love with it. Who knows?
Well, I don't want to watch Dr. No next week.
What?
No, you don't know?
Why not?
Dr. No? Because I wanted to do those together.
Oh,
in one
as
episode.
a pair. Oh, okay. I thought we would dip our toes by just watching one.
Like that would be just the one.
Yeah.
To dip our toes in the James Bond test episode.
Yeah. Dr. No. Just see.
Just do Dr. No?
Yeah.
Instead of adaptation?
Yeah.
All right. Fine. We'll do Dr. No and that other movie you said, Racing Arizona, next week. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah.
All right.
What are we at?
We are at 1 hour and 56 minutes.
Damn. We came all that way just to say That's at Mattress Man. If you need more soup, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to our website, eatingsoupalone.com. And until next time,